I remember I was struck by the harmony of color in the forest. Shades of yellow and green deepening to the browns and purples. And the way the vines curled up through the trees, clinging to twigs and branches. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves so that the shining stars of light gleamed and winked. I was keenly aware of secret movements in the trees. I looked into his large and lustrous eyes. They seemed somehow to express his entire personality, his serene self-assurance. What an amazing privilege it was to be utterly accepted thus by a wild, free animal. I lay there, part of the forest, and experienced again that magical enhancement of sound, that added richness of perception. I was awed by the beauty, and I found myself thinking, this is where I belong. Together, the chimpanzees and the baboons and the monkeys, the birds and insects, the teeming life of the vibrant forest, the stirrings of the never-still waters of the Great Lake, formed one whole. All one.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here with us for this very special gathering, a sacred send-off for Jane Goodall. I'm Jennifer Baker, an animal chaplain and a board member of the Compassion Consortium. Our mission at the Consortium is to create an inclusive, interfaith, interspiritual, and interspecies spiritual community, a place rooted in compassion for all beings. Today, we've come together to honor the life and legacy of Jane Goodall. Not only her groundbreaking science, but also the compassion, wisdom, and spirit she brought to the world. Jane showed us to see animals as kin, as sacred beings with stories and emotions of their own. She taught us about the lives of animals with deep wisdom and compassion, and challenged us to re-examine the way we live, to defend the vulnerable, care for the earth, and live more consciously, acting with kindness toward all beings of all species. We are honored to share this space with you. The space is being recorded to share with people who were unable to be with us tonight. In a moment, you'll hear the first of our 4 short reflections from the perspectives of animal advocacy, bio-centric spirituality, visual memorializing, and legal impact. We'll then share a community experience, holding space together for our grief, our gratitude, and our hope as we send Jane with love into whatever's next. We invite you to participate at whatever level feels comfortable for you. I'm delighted to introduce the first perspective from Victoria Moran, one of Compassion Consortium's co-founders.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thanks to everybody who's spending this time with us in honor of a giant. I'm coming to you from New York City, where I am with the Compassion Consortium co-founder, Reverend William Melton. When Jane Goodall came into my world in 1965, it was on television, the CBS special, Miss Goodall and the Wild Chimpanzees. This was a year before she received her PhD in ethology, and when she was Baroness Jane Van Leeuwenhoek Goodall, hyphenated for her first husband, and Baroness was much cooler than a doctorate to me because I was 15. She was everything, pretty, British, and most of all, she hung out with non-human primates in the wild. They knew her. and vice versa. These beings who are endlessly fascinating in their own right, and who are also the bridge between humankind and the whole vast kingdom of animals who don't resemble us as much as the primates do, but they could maybe, if Miss Goodall could show us their personhood, convince people that the other animals are persons too. Through the years, she seemed to show up everywhere in her books. I think there were 16 of them, in a Stevie Nicks song, an episode of The Simpsons, and about 10 years ago on lists of famous vegans. And with all this, she was bringing people together, the animal welfare folks and the animal rights folks, advocates of wildlife and advocates for farmed animals, companion animals, animals in laboratories. She was bringing together environmentalists and conservationists. Now, animal rights people and conservationists are famously at odds on a host of issues, but Jane defied boundaries. We all loved her, so we could all claim her. Her most recent gift to us came, I think, in the way she left us. I was reading her Wikipedia, and it said, Goodall died of natural causes in Los Angeles on 1st October 2025 at the age of 91 while on a speaking tour in the United States. I read that over 4 times, maybe 5. She died at 91 on a speaking tour. She died at the appointed time doing this incredible work that I believe everyone in this Zoom is part of and believes in. So something has been added to my bucket list, maybe the most important thing that's left on it, and that is to die at whatever age on a speaking tour. Maybe for you, that's to die at whatever age tending to an ailing baby squirrel, or rescuing beagles from a laboratory, or after making a wonderful vegan meal for somebody who had mistakenly thought before that it wouldn't fill them up. Godspeed, Jane, unhyphenated Goodall. We'll do all we can to carry on for you from here. Reverend Sarah.
Victoria, thank you so much for that reminder that Jane has inspired so many parts of animal and earth movements. And throughout the last few days, has anyone else noticed there have been so many beautiful tributes in media across the globe, right? I wanted to share just a couple thoughts with you as we get started here. In newspapers, TV shows, podcasts, my social media feed, everything has images of Jane, quotes, people's memories, how they intend to continue her work, or how they will have it continue to inspire them. It is truly awe-inspiring. That's a word I think that many of us are using right now. Tonight, as we gather together, we're not only honoring Dr. Goodall, it's important to say that, we're also honoring what each of us carry as people who are concerned about animals and their habitats, who are concerned about the earth and all of its inhabitants. Research shows that when grief is held communally, inclusively based rituals can become a form of care that transforms private sorrow into shared strength and renewed purpose. Transforms our private sorrow into shared strength and renewed purpose. So by sharing with each other tonight and moving together through gratitude, through pain, perhaps, through remembrance, through blessing, we can more fully express and process our love and our lament. Tonight, we'll engage in a purposeful meditation and we'll light a ritual fire, which I'll describe a little bit more later. We will do this together in this group in a way that is synchronous. So much of our communications to each other are asynchronous. You chat this, I chat this. You write this, I read this later. We will be doing this together. With the rest of my short reflection time, and I'm known for being quite loquacious, I'm going to highlight just a couple of points about Jane's own spiritual perspectives. Throughout her work, Dr. Goodall made two strong claims. The first was that chimpanzees, and eventually by extension, some other species, were capable of having spiritual experiences while they were living. What many of us scholars now refer to as animal spirituality, or interspecies spirituality, or multi-species spirituality, is built on foundations of not only the words of sacred texts and long-standing traditions in indigenous and shamanic and Hindu and Jain and Shinto and Buddhist and Christian, Jewish, Islamic. I mean, I could keep going, right? We find all of these kind of places where within our religions, spiritual paths, life philosophies, we're trying to grapple with how to coexist with other species. But what Jane brought us was field observations during her scientific field work, which have been developed by other scientists, animal theologians as well, to say, are animals having this thing that we describe for ourselves as spirituality? And secondly, Jane became willing to reflect publicly about the possibility of science and spirituality being entangled, not in opposition, entangled. And this shift became particularly evident with the publication of her book, Reason for Hope, A Spiritual Journey. How many of you have a copy of this book? Maybe on Kindle and maybe in paper book and maybe, yeah, right? If you don't, highly recommended. In this book, Goodall integrated scientific inquiry with themes of spirituality and compassion and reverence for nature. Here's a quote that I really love, and you may have seen it rolling around on Facebook recently. Here's what Jane said about her own personal spirituality. It seemed to me, as I struggled afterward to recall the experience, that self was utterly absent. I and the chimpanzees, the earth, the trees, and the air seemed to merge, to become one with the spirit power of life itself. Let's sink in for a second. Have you ever felt something like that? Maybe not with chimpanzees. For me, it's squirrels, birds, other animals near me. I don't have any chimpanzees living near me. But Jane argued that understanding the natural world requires not only empirical observation, folks, not only science, but also empathy and intuition and spiritual connections. And so her view aligned with a whole bunch of other people, growing interest in the intrinsic value of nature. Not just nature as resources for us humans, right? But nature beyond material utility. Nature having relational and spiritual values in an ecosystem. And she joined that broader trend of a lot of folks who've been saying that. She emphasized spirituality as a potential for, let's double down on this, energizing movements to think bio-centrically, to think not just from a human perspective. And that integration signaled a departure from purely secular approaches that have historically dominated conservation efforts, that it's all about us humans. This view found an engaged and passionate audience. Maybe some of you who look to nature rather than or in addition to religious institutions for feelings of spiritual connection, and people who experience nature as positively related to their well-being. So let me wrap this up here. As global media reports about ecological crises continue, our search for meaning and connection becomes increasingly important. What kind of planet are we leaving for our descendants? What kind of planet are we living on? Jane Goodall modeled a way to come to terms. It's difficult, but to come to terms with the destructiveness of humans and figure out how to apply hope as a remedy. For one of my writing projects, I spent 6 months reading 2,000 pages of Jane's writings and biographies and transcripts and excerpts from her journals and all sorts of stuff. So I'd love another hour to tell you all about this, but I don't have it. So we will pop into the chat a link for those of you who'd like to go a little deeper with me to learn more about Jane's spiritual outlook and what insights might be helpful for your own spirituality. But it's time to move on to a new perspective, another voice, and to our communal experience. So please help me in inviting Patricia Denise, photographer, educator, animal rights activist, creative inspiration behind Animal Culture magazine, to share her own moments through a couple of images before we move on. Patricia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah. The first few slides that you will see are from 2024 and 2025, when Dr. Goodall was here in Los Angeles, which he was here annually, faithfully. And the third black and white you will eventually see is actually from the day we spent with her, and that is what my talk is about. So my talk is called How to Save the World and Remembering How to Make a Game of It. My sister Mary and I were working on our book, Animal Magnetism, a photography book on people and animals. We made a list of people that we were wondering and hoping that we could photograph. We contacted them. Jane Goodall was one of them. She responded with when she would be in LA and that we could collect her from LAX. When we arrived, we were holding our sign with Goodall written on it. The pilot passed us and said, "Is that Jane Goodall on my airplane?" He carried on. Jane was right behind him. She arrived with her own bag, no assistance, just Jane. She also walked very fast. In order to photograph her with primates, we discovered a sanctuary in the Angeles National Forest that took in animals, many exotics, also from the movie industry, many with special needs, and some who were discarded or injured. The director was excited to host Jane Goodall. As we were driving there, it was dawning on me that Jane Goodall was in the back seat of my Ford Explorer, chatting away. She asked, who was writing our foreword? And I said, Linda McCartney. She said, who's writing your introduction? And I said, Ingrid Newkirk of PETA. Jane said, well, I think I should be writing the introduction. I just remember giving Mary this sort of sideward glance from the driver's seat and then saying, great. And then thinking, how am I going to dump Ingrid Newkirk because Jane Goodall was replacing her? So the solution would be 2 introductions. I realized that this was not a personal favor for our project. Jane was thinking of her mission and how could she maximize the involvement with the book to enhance her cause. She sent several versions of the introduction to us when she got back to England during one of her few at-home periods, being very keen to get it right. She was totally engaged in the project. It was humbling. When we got to the sanctuary to photograph her and started to tour the grounds, she began a verbal list to the director on what should be changed in order to help these animals better. The director complied with a written list. Suddenly, Jane paused to interact with a chimpanzee. We witnessed Jane speaking to him, and he responded. She was talking very low, very calmly. I could not understand the language. but it was clear she was speaking his language and he was engaged. This was a great privilege, absolutely one of the greatest of my life. Afterwards, on our way to dinner, she wanted coffee. So we stopped at the Starbucks nearby. A young man at the register recognized her. He was very excited and asked if she was Jane Goodall. She said yes and chatted a bit, and I noticed multiple piercings on his face. And when we left, Jane mentioned his piercings and said, "That just gives me the Jim Jams." Of course, I'm thinking she must have seen quite a bit in her lifetime by now, and this gives her the Jim Jams. This is something my sister and I share with each other. That gave you the Jim Jams yesterday. We asked if she needed anything else for her day before we went to dinner. She said that she needed an immersion heater. We went to a Rite Aid in Santa Monica. We walked in together, and I was thinking, we should be protective and we should walk on either side of her. Suddenly she turns around to us and says, "Let's make a game of it. Let's start looking for the immersion heater together and see who wins." So we continued on different aisles. She was serious and she won. She was world famous then for her efforts in carrying the world on her shoulders, but she thought to make a game of something quite benign. We did our interview for the book at dinner, and various people stopped by to greet Jane. She was very obliging. Finally, we dropped her at her modest B&B in Santa Monica so she could prepare for her talk the next day on Roots and Shoots, the project for young people, which continues today. We waited in the car and we watched Jane walk alone to the door and her single bag beside her and disappear into the darkness. She was preparing for her talk and continuing her mission. Jane Goodall believed what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. We are here today because Jane made a difference for us. Make a difference for Jane. Decide what difference you want to make. Then go do it, but remember, make time for the games. Blessings on Jane. And now it's my great privilege to bring you Jenny Kita, and she's going to talk to you about the legal, enduring implications of Jane's life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. What beautiful memories. Thank you for sharing those with us. So in 2023, the Non-Human Rights Project reached out to see if I would serve as local counsel for a case they were planning to file seeking the immediate release of 8 chimpanzees from a roadside zoo in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. One of those chimpanzees was Tommy, who had starred with Matthew Broderick in the 1987 movie Project X. We later learned had died the year prior in a cell by himself. That was only after the USDA went in and was able to determine that, in fact, he had died. The Non-Human Rights Project and I have been working on this case since 2023. Our case was immediately dismissed by the lower court and is scheduled for oral arguments before the Michigan Court of Appeals, somewhat coincidentally, as spirit would have it, in 2 weeks. What makes this case particularly poignant and precious is that Dr. Jane Goodall served as one of our witnesses. She provided an affidavit supporting our motion for the lower court case that we're hoping will eventually be heard by the lower court. It's precious because for the first time in US history, the brief at both the lower court and in the appellate court includes a reference to the spirituality of an animal, in this case, the 7 remaining chimpanzees. One of the things that Jane brought to the world was her studies, as Sarah shared, around this issue. And one of the things that's happening in the cases that the Non-Human Rights Project are bringing around the country they're using what they're arguing is that these animals that arguing in favor of their personhood. And so the fact that they engage in spiritual lives, something that we've learned from Dr. Goodall's work, has added to those arguments. And so that we're able to include that. When I looked at I researched to see had the spirituality of an animal ever been briefed before. The only mention is animals that are used in spiritual rituals. So this truly is a groundbreaking case in the sense that we've included this in our briefing for these justices to review on the 14th. I am deeply grateful to Dr. Jane Goodall, who I consider to be one of my first heroines, much like Victoria said. I felt her eternal spirit with us yesterday. We actually argued the case before law professors yesterday in anticipation of our time on the 14th. I felt her spirit with us yesterday, and I trust that I will feel it with her, that she'll be with us on the 14th as well. May her memory continue to be a call to compassion in the legal profession, especially until all beings are free to flourish. Thank you. Oh, and now I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah, I believe, for communal practices.
Yeah, Jenny, I was just letting that sink in, right? All of those perspectives. And I realized we've just shared 4 with you. And there are a couple hundred in this room and a few more hundred that will watch this video, and perhaps even more than that. And how many perspectives we have of the ways that Jane has touched us. And so the idea that there might be grief or loss about someone we knew, or someone we were inspired by, or someone we actually had a relationship with, or someone we just knew from afar, makes sense to me. Does it make sense to all of you? It makes sense that we would experience grief and loss and see this outpouring of tributes. From an inner spiritual perspective, right? So from a very broad perspective that includes the idea that we have these many, many ways of thinking and living and, using spiritual traditions and religious traditions and philosophical paths, that when we gather in community, grief is not a pathology to fix. It's not something to get rid of. Like, come here and we will get rid of your grief. I have a magic wand. Grief is a bond to witness. It's a reminder of what and who is meaningful to us. Meditative and mindful and spiritual practices or rituals provide us a way of processing that offering verbal tributes, like we've just done, doesn't always do. There is something that happens in the process of that practice, perhaps in the silence or the contemplation or the entrance of spirit or whatever language you are using, the tapping of the deepest inner self, that there is a way to do processing a little differently. I know some of the words I may have just used might be charged or prickly for you based on what your tradition is, what your beliefs are. I understand that. So translate whatever I have just said or I'm about to say into your language, into your philosophical or spiritual or religious language. Substitute it in any way that makes it accessible for you, meaningful for you. Okay? We're going to do 3 practices together right now. The first comes from Lisa Levinson, who is from In Defense of Animals, and she's going to lead us in a 4-minute meditative experience that I'm hoping you will find beneficial. Lisa right now is in Hawaii, so she has provided us a video that our tech lead here, Jack, is going to play for us. And so I invite you first, while Jack gets that queued up, to take a couple deep breaths with me. Notice how your body feels. Any discomfort or comfort, or how you're feeling right now about gathering in a community of folks, some of whom you may know and others you may not. And the idea of trying something today with this group of people. An experiment. Let's see what happens. Jack, I see you've got Lisa with us, so I will cede the floor to Lisa Levinson.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Lisa Levinson, Campaigns Director for In Defense of Animals and co-founder of the Interfaith Vegan Coalition. I am tuning in today from the islands of Hawaii. It's my great honor to pay tribute to Dr. Jane Goodall, who passed recently. She was one of my great heroes. So today we'll do a practice that's a meditation, an opportunity to connect and share a personal message with Dr. Goodall. So take a moment and take a deep breath, breathing in and breathing out. And one more, breathing in and breathing out. And find yourself in a beautiful, safe place in nature, where you can have connection and communion with Dr. Goodall. Imagine that you are seated comfortably and there's a space right next to you for her to join you. Take a moment and welcome and invite her in to the space. Imagine that she is there with you now. You are in front of each other, connecting heart to heart, eyes to eyes, soul to soul. And take this moment to tell her anything that you would like to share with her your gratitude, to give her a personal message, to just be in each other's presence. Notice if there's a special message that you want to give to her, and also perhaps there's one that she has for you. Listen and experience your time together. Perhaps it's a moment to say goodbye and thank you. A moment of honor and gratitude. And then thank her for joining you. Thank her for her presence and all of her many contributions. Let her know that you will keep her in her mind, in your mind and thoughts, and in your memories. And as she bids you adieu, you come back to that safe place and take a moment to integrate this experience by taking a couple of deep breaths together, breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And then bring yourself back to the place where you are in currently, leaving that sacred place in nature and coming back to the here and now. Welcome yourself back from this practice together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Taking a moment to let that settle. Acknowledging how you feel right now. Some of you might have had more to say to Jane, perhaps, than that video allowed for. So when we distribute the replay of this, perhaps you might want to try it again. Grief theory now tells us that moving on and getting closure is not actually what we're looking for well-being, but enduring connections is what we're looking for. For some of you, those connections might be through memory. For some of you, those connections might be more porous, more lines or spiritual. It might be more vivid. It might be, you might continue to talk to Jane for however long that you might continue to talk to her, for days, weeks, minutes, months, years. Ancestor traditions tell us that this is a possibility. This is a possibility. So we're going to engage in a second, I'm going to call it experiment or practice, a fire ritual that's used. This is adapted from those used in Taoist and Buddhist and some indigenous traditions. If you think about it, in fact, fire is used in almost every spiritual or religious tradition, even secular activities. How often do we light candles at special moments, or light candles to honor, to remember, and for practical reasons too? Fire is part of our experience. So there is an ancient practice of burning what's called joss paper. This is joss paper. It looks a lot of different ways, but this is the joss paper I like to use. And I was holding it while we were all doing that first experiment or that first practice, hoping that perhaps in some way I was infusing our thoughts to Jane here. I have written on here, and if you do this practice, you know that writing here is a way to have our blessings or prayers move in different ways. I've written our blessings for your journey, Jane, on this piece of paper. It's a symbolic gesture, and this paper becomes an offering. It's a carrier of our love and our gratitude, our prayers, whatever your words are, transformed by fire in a moment into something that can travel beyond our visible world as it becomes smoke. So whether we envision Jane journeying through the bardo or towards spirit or heaven or paradise, becoming energy, some other radiant unfolding that we can't name, however we think that is happening, as the flames rise, it's my hope that they carry our messages, our thoughts toward her and toward all beings who have crossed before us, linking our world with whatever is next. So bear with me, we're live, folks. And let's hope all of my matches and materials behave. Just feeling the tactileness of this material. I've chosen today matches with owls. Owls are important in many different spiritual traditions. They may be important to you, or they may just be some beings you like to listen to or you may communicate with. So I ask you to focus on this paper, invite you to, if it feels comfortable. Taking a breath, and once I light this fire, I will be quiet and let us watch and observe how it feels in our bodies. What is left from this ritual goes into a series of urns that I carry. Today's will go in this one, hoping that the material that is left will continue to be honored and revered. I invite you to take a few deep breaths. Notice how your body feels. This might have been something that I see some hearts coming, so something that touched some of you. For some, it might have felt new or strange, or you might want to get a little more information about this practice, and I encourage you to. Jane, I hope you can feel the love in this room for you, the love that continues, and the love all around the world right now for your journey, whatever that looks like. Yeah, let us settle that in. Spaciousness. I just saw a monkey float by. Thank you for that. The third thing we're going to do tonight is share with each other. This is an optional opportunity for you all. And I'd like Ginny to come back up here and help prepare us for that.
Thank you, Sarah. Right now, our tech facilitator, Jack, is preparing small groups so you can each share with each other. While the idea of sharing with strangers may make some of us nervous, it may help to remember that we are gathered here today with a common goal: to honor Dr. Jane Goodall and to share about her impact on us and our hope going forward. And so in some ways, might we not be strangers? We also recognize you may be feeling some strong emotions right now, and the groups are a place for you to receive support through the presence of others. If you feel like you need more support, we recommend a few well-being support resources. We will share a document into the chat, which suggests opportunities for ongoing support. And if I could just say one more thing about our gatherings, if you're in a group, you are not required to speak. So if you feel like just listening with your small group, that's okay too. Thank you. Back to you, Sarah. Or actually to Jen, I believe.
Whether you stay with us for sharing or head out from here, thank you for joining us tonight. We'd love to know how this experience was for you so that your sharing with us can help inform our events and offerings. We'll put a link in the chat to a form that takes no more than 2 minutes to complete. Thank you all.
So here we go. As Ginny said, you don't need to share in a group. You could be present there and hold space for people who might need presence of a good listening ear right now. Your groups are not going to be recorded. We'll put about 30 minutes on the clock, but at 20 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes is about the right time. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. So Jack will give you some heads up. Remember that we each come with our own unique experiences. So listen to each person's experience as their own without trying to reconcile viewpoints or necessarily agree. Listen to each other generously and graciously. And it may be helpful to have one person, if they want to, keep time in your group. And after one person shares, we recommend thanking them. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing what's going on for you. And if for any reason you feel uncomfortable in your group, please feel free to leave the breakout and come back on here to the main group, where you'll be able to share via chat. Jack will turn the chat on. The experience of sharing with each other can be deeply, deeply supportive in times of loss. We hope this time is valuable for you, and for those of you who choose to enter into sharing with each other. The Compassion Consortium also has a lot of other events during the month. We have Sunday services. We have an activist support group. We have a companion animal support group. If you lose a companion animal, we have a vegan meditation group for the folks who are plant-powered. We have lots of different ways to support you all. So you'll see in that chat, that link that Jen posted in, if you'd like to get more information about us, or just go to compassionconsortium.org. So, Jack, are we about ready? I see we have quite a few folks who want to hang out and talk a little bit or listen a little bit to shares. So you'll see in just a moment, we're used to Zoom now, most of us. You'll see an invitation on your screen. Take it, go to your group, support each other. Support each other. Folks, if you do not see the invitation that you just received, you can also go to the bottom of your screen and click on a button that says Breakout Rooms. That sometimes works as well. Or if you need some help getting into a room, we are here in the main room, and if you just can't seem to make it happen, Jack will help it happen. Or if you'd like to stay here and chat with us, you can do that as well. So I see that we have, let me look in gallery view. I see we've got a couple folks who stayed with us. Jack, if you want to pause the recording.
Are you fit?
Huh?
You're back.
I think that's the last group of us that are back, folks. It's
Little
nice to see so many people that stuck around for conversation. We love having conversations, supporting each other here at Compassion Consortium. Jen, Victoria, you want to add anything else to let the people know some of the other things we get up to around here?
Sure. Well, I left you a couple of links in the chat where you could go, and like Sarah said, just go onto our website, compassionconsortium.org. And we basically have a Sunday service every third Sunday of the month. We always have a different spiritual guest and different things that we do. And we have replays that you can see if you'd like to just see what they're like on our YouTube as well. We also have monthly pet loss grief support groups that anyone can join. And as Sarah mentioned, the different groups that we have, the vegan meditation. So whatever your interest is, or you want to just try it out, come join us. And everything's on our website, so you can go and register for things. We also have special events like this we just did. Those will always be posted as well. So the best way to find out more is sign up for the newsletter, and then we send out the newsletter monthly, and any updates go. And will also be posted on our Facebook site as well. Victoria, if you have any to share, or
No, just
Sorry.
thank you, Reverend Sarah, for having that inspiration. And thank you, Dr. Jane, for maybe providing the inspiration. Lovely.
Yeah.
And in my little breakout room, which looked at the time like it had only one person in it, although she was there with some family. I don't know if she's still with us, but she has a vegan rabbi that I got his name and contact information, so maybe he'll be one of our guests one of these days.
Wonderful.
Great.
And I also have to thank Patricia for the one who helped with the inspiration of putting this together, and also for Jack for coming on in to help us out with the tech. We had a lot of moving parts today, and we had a lot of folks registered here that we wanted to make sure and keep a nice compassionate, reverent space. And both Jack and Lucas Baker did a great job helping us do that. That's not always an easy thing. It looks seamless on the outside, but isn't always behind the scenes. So a lot of great gratitude to both of you. And to William, who's here with us as well in in spirit and over close to Victoria, who without which the Compassion Consortium would not exist. And so making sure that we remember William today and all that he brings to all of the planning around here as well. So thank you all for the hearts and the claps and the monkeys. Keep them coming, and we hope to keep seeing your faces.
And thanks to, I mean, I'm just seeing names on here of people who are so celebrated. Thank you for celebrating with us.
Yeah, we've got some folks here whose names I know from their advocacy work as well. And thank you for everything that you do. Right? We're all parts of a very, very big puzzle. Ginny Makita, you want to drop us a closing blessing here? Can I put you on the spot for that?
I'd be happy to do that. Oh gosh, what a beautiful evening. And I would just ask, first of all, close your eyes if you're comfortable. Soften your gaze one last time during our time together. And may Dr. Jane Goodall, embodied in the spirit of the forest, be with each one of you as you go back out into the world and emulate the good work that she began and continues to inspire. Amen. May it be so.
So it is, so mote it be, and all the other closing words. Good night, folks. Take good care of yourself.